Welcome back to Esoteric Ohm. I am Jod. It is March 25th, 2025. It's Tuesday night. I hope you are doing well. I hope you have been experiencing a lot of success in your spiritual practices and your magical practices. I hope life has been uh, a wonderful blessing to you recently. So, first off, I apologize it's been so long. I have taken a little bit of time off um, from posting videos and really just kind of diving back into my own learning. Um, I finished Success Magic. I still have a daily magical practice of, banishing, maybe 3 to 4 different daily rituals as well. But I've kind of dialed back. So I'm kind of looking for that next long term ritual. And I've been taking this time to kind of just observe the effects of the magic that I've been doing recently, just really to pay attention, as well as really to get back into learning, looking at the big picture, looking at my map of reality. And instead of kind of taking a lot of magical action consistently, I've kind of just been observing and going back into being a student again. So, yeah, but I hope you've been well. I need to get to my comments. I'm happy to be posting again. So, took a little bit of a digital detox, taking a break kind of to also work on the physical level, it's kind of like when you do magic and you ask for like, oh, I'd like to get a new home or a new house. Once you get that, there's a lot of maintenance that goes into a lot of physical maintenance, and it can take some getting adjusting to. Um, just like if you, for example, ask for like, oh, I want a horse or something. That's just an example. Now you have to feed the horse. You have to make sure the horse is well taken care of. You have to make sure the horse has enough room. Get to know the horse, kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing. But I wanted to hop on and just let you know that I hope you've been well. I have been thinking about you, and I have a couple just small kind of snippets that I'd like to share that I found a lot of value. In a previous video, I shared kind of a line about fullness is taken from fullness and fullness remains. I found out where that came from. So this is a book called The Upanishads by Eknath Easwaran. I won't get into all of it. This is one of my favorite spiritual collections, spiritual texts. And yeah, I'll kind of probably do a deep dive on this. But if you're looking for any sort of um, sage, mystical accounts, experiences, kind of from the Indian tradition, the Eastern tradition, a lot of stuff that kind of later evolved into Hinduism and Buddhism. Definitely check this out. But the line is, um, all this is full, all that is full. From fullness, fullness comes. When fullness is taken from fullness, fullness still remains. And this is kind of my baseline attitude when it comes to manifestation, when it comes to having a prosperity and abundance mindset. I'll read it again. All this is full, all that is full. From fullness, fullness comes. When fullness is taken from fullness, fullness still remains. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So pretty cool. A lot to ponder on this in this book. So many cool passages and kind of like esoteric readings. But I will do kind of maybe a deep dive in the future. The other idea that I kind of came across, a couple ideas, is from reading Peter J. Carroll's The Octavo. Now, he is a chaos magician. I've done a couple readings or reviews from his book, I believe one. He's got some really cool earlier stuff. This is one of his later ones, and there's a lot of math in it, and I am not going to lie and tell you that. Well, now I can't find any of the rituals with math in it, but there's a lot of really cool. Okay, there we go. It has mathematical equations, a lot of philosophy, a lot of really cool stuff. It's some deeper magical reading for sure. Definitely a little bit heavier, a little bit. Takes maybe reading a passage a couple times to get it, but um, in the beginning of this book, he lays out a magical formula that he has kind of in a way, been talking about since his earlier writings. But basically, he's talking about the magical ritual consists of five main conceptual parts. The first part is centering, right? Centering yourself, um, essentially powering yourself up for magical action. You know, centering yourself, find your point of power, finding your own center. The second part is encircling, right, which is connecting with the macrocosm. Whether that's deities, whether that's planetary influences, whether that's other figures, gods, goddesses. That's the second part. The third part is invocation, which is essentially summoning useful sources of power and knowledge, invoking it, drawing it into yourself. And then the fourth step is conjuration, um, doing the magic, enchantment, divination, evocation, illumination, etc. This can be a little bit lengthy, he says, depending upon your desired outcome. And then the last step is banishing. He says this part does not actually get rid of anything, it just sets the magic free to do as the magician has specified. So, definitely an interesting process, an interesting formula. But this is kind of what works for him, and there's a lot to be gleaned from it. So it's centering, encircling, invocation, conjuration, and banishing. He goes into more of a deep dive into that, but I'll leave that there. And then finally, the last the last thing I wanted to mention is magic. It works best, in my opinion, if it's applied to the easiest path for it to take effect, almost like the weakness in the reality. So, with magic, when I'm practicing, I'm not so much trying to bang my head up against a wall. I'm essentially finding the weak point of that wall and seeing if I can apply as little pressure as possible to push it over. And he had a couple really good ways of kind of explaining this. So I'm going to read it again. This is the Octavo by Peter J. Carroll. Um, okay, so when selecting the objective for the conjuration phase of the ritual, the magician needs to enchant or divine for events or knowledge that require only small energy or information or entropy effects. So, figuring out where the weak point is. For example, the spontaneous materialization of gold requires prohibitive amounts of energy, and even the output of gold usually requires a considerable alteration to the information structure of the universe. So if you're trying to manifest gold bricks out of thin air, which I've tried to do before, it takes an enormous amount of energy in rearranging of kind of the natural order of things, of what we consider everyday reality. So, like, oh, I'm just going to manifest a pile of gold bricks. I believe it's possible, but it takes a huge amount of energy, and also a ton of changes kind of have to happen internally and externally for that to take place. On the other hand, conjuring a business worth a lot of gold bars out of virtually nothing merely involves a change of attitude and changing the thoughts of those you want to involve in the enterprise as suppliers or customers. So basically, again, trying to manifest by just, hey, I'm going to create a bunch of gold bars out of this empty space takes a lot of effort and energy. But coming up with a business idea and persuading other people to support you in that, that that idea itself is worth a ton of gold bars, is a different way of approaching magic and easier to do. So, again, applying the least amount of pressure to the point where you get the most impact. And then the last thing, another example is the magician should seek out enchantment objectives where the microstates of the system have a useful grain size, but with only small energy differences between them. So, he uses this example. For example, a stationary dice shows just one of its six possible microstates, and the transition energies between them remain fairly high. You cannot easily flip it by telekinesis. So, if you just have a dice, it's not in motion, it's sitting there. trying to move it with telekinesis is definitely possible and people can do it, but it takes a lot of energy, right? But, however, whilst a dice tumbles vigorously, the transition energies between its final microstates remain tiny. Microstates remain tiny. So, again, if you have a dice and it's just sitting there and you're trying to move it by telekinesis to, maybe show a six or whatever it is you're looking for, it takes a lot of energy, a lot of effort. But if the dice is already in motion while it's spinning, your influence and your effort has a greater effect because it's already in its transition phase. So I thought those were two really cool examples talking about how using magic to basically just force something to happen. It's doable. I've done it. I'm sure lots of people have done it. It's sometimes hard, but if you can figure out, instead of trying to move that dice with your mind, with your will, with telekinesis, if you can move that dice when it's already moving, you have a much greater effect of getting the number that you want. So yeah, I thought those were some helpful ideas, because magic is an art, it's a science. It definitely helps to understand that, um, magic likes to seek. It's just like water seeks the lowest level, um, just like hot air rises, just like, I think those are the only two examples that come to mind. But yeah, when you're trying to create a result, when you're trying to attain something through magical means or spiritual means or even physical means, um, just a tiny change in where you apply the pressure, where you focus your ritual, um, can have massive results. So I hope that helps. Again, thank you again for your patience and understanding. I have been kind of back to learning, back to studying, also kind of been really trying to get visions of, certain things that are the next step. So I've been doing that through a lot of breath work, a lot of meditation, a lot of silence, a lot of other technologies that are pretty cool. Which, yeah, there's the standard stuff on how to gain mystical vision, and then there's the other stuff, the cool stuff. So I hope you've been well. Thank you again for subscribing. Thank you for watching. Thank you for your comments. I'll get back in there as soon as possible, answer any comments that I haven't answered, and then I'll get back on a regular posting schedule again soon. But everything's good here. Lots of exciting changes. Again, just a lot of stuff going on in physical reality. So I've kind of been focusing on that level, but I'm looking forward to getting back in it with you. And again, thank you for being here. I'll talk to you soon.